the SBS is going to be able to accomplish that the RCMP hasn't up until this point?
I think what we can do is maximize public safety with a predictable staffing plan. I think with the Surrey Police Board, the level of accountability, it's different in a municipal policing environment. I report to a policing board. They oversee the finances, they oversee policy, they oversee strategic direction. I think that local accountability is so important in a large organization. I also think that we can respond very quickly to community needs. By way of example, body-worn cameras, and I'm in favor of that. And as we move forward, we can certainly implement that in a relatively speedy fashion, but there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. And finally, I'll say this, the connection to the community. When Surrey Police Service hires recruits, they stay for 25 years. And so you have these long-term police officers in a predictable staffing plan that stays and understands and gets to know the community. I think that's so important in this day and age of public trust in policing.
Are you a follow-up?
Sure.
Spoke with or a colleague of mine spoke with a member from the Surrey Police Union, kind of pitched this question to him. I'm just curious to know your response. How hard has this been on your officers, your members, this long, drawn-out process?
It's been difficult. Change is always difficult. We've been at this for 2.5 years. I must recognize the RCMP, who have been at this for 4 years, their members. And today I got a call from Assistant Commissioner Brian Edwards, and he congratulated me, and we look forward to working together to move this forward. We had a very professional, very progressive discussion, and it's difficult, and we recognize that it's difficult for both parties on this, and it has been difficult for us. And remember that in the last number of months, we were looking at the potential of possibly losing our jobs, 400 people. That's very, very difficult.
Can you take us through what the transition is going to look like and provide us with more details on the timeline? Right now you have, about 330-some officers, so when will we see the next step? And the minister saying today that it will take, I think, up to 3 years for this to be complete. So can you just take us through how this is going to happen?
The minister indicated the HR plan, which was in place for the last 2 years. It's been put on pause. We are ostensibly 6 months behind because we're in a pause mode now. And the minister indicated, and I haven't read any reports as of yet, but he indicated to stand up the HR plan again, to work with the 3 levels of government again. There were various committees there. So I look forward to doing that. He mentioned today upwards to 3 years to complete it, which is to say that it would be 100% Surrey police officers. And what's important, that we do not destabilize the municipal policing environment in the lower mainland. So what he was referring to is a gradual build-up. Now, the other part of that is what's called police of jurisdiction. There's only one agency that can be in charge, and it's the RCMP right now. But as we build up, and as we have half of the officers that the full complement represents, then we will be in charge. And so we anticipate that, depending on how quickly we can pick up the plan, but we anticipate that to be in about 8 months, 10 months, somewhere in there. We're capable of doing that, but again, we have to work with all the municipal chiefs, the hiring plan. We have to work with 3 levels of government and with the RCMP. And I must mention that, having worked in the RCMP for a number of years, some of the finest police officers I've ever worked with. And when we're talking about demobilizing, then it's going to take some time because they have to be transferred somewhere else. And it might sound simple, but it's difficult if some of them move out of province and you have to go through logistics of that. So I haven't seen the report. Minister indicated upwards to 3 years for total completion. Then there's the police of jurisdiction. I think we could do that in less than a year. But again, there's a lot of planning and a lot of logistics that go with that.
And so you mentioned you mentioned something about in 8 months. So in 8 months or a year, how many SPS officers do you expect to be on the street?
Okay, on the street, I would expect to be about 350.
In a year from now?
Yes, because I've got about 230 right now. So I would look at hiring over the course of the year 100, 125 officers.
Okay. I thought you guys had about 300 and some officers currently.
Yes, that is total. That is total. So let me clarify. We have 339 police officers. We have about 60 civilian support staff. We have about 200 police officers on the front line in Surrey. So in order to be police of jurisdiction, you need 300 plus on the front line. So we have to keep in mind that we have an HR department, we have a recruiting department, we have a training department. They're not on the front line, and they're not classified as being on the front line.
Sorry, one more question. We all know what the minister has said today, but do you think that there could still, that the city, who the minister mentioned several times, was not happy about the decision? Do you think that they could try and legally challenge this?
Well, I don't know the ins and outs of the law pertaining to the legal challenge in this realm. I leave it up to the provincial government. The minister said that he's very, very confident with their view of the law under the Police Act, and he was citing Section 2. And I haven't had any conversations with anybody from the city pertaining to what they would be looking at legally. So I'll let the lawyers decide that.
When it comes to the recruitment, getting more people on board, so what would be the options available for any officials that might be working right now with RCMP? Because there has been a talk about 80 plus officials. It was being claimed that they wanted to shift sites to the RCMP in case that situation were there. So is there a kind of a counter proposal from your side also? Is there a possibility of that?
There's two types of employees that we can take in for police officers. One is the brand new recruits that go to Justice Institute of BC. And so we have people in the JIBC, as it's known, already. They're in training and so forth. So we have a large application pool for that. Then the other stream is experienced officers. And we take experienced officers from all across Canada. We have, in fact, 28 different police agencies represented in the SPS. So with the RCMP in Surrey specifically, absolutely, we would be looking to onboard those that apply and meet our threshold. And but we would also keep in mind, of course, not destabilizing Surrey detachment. So again, this has to be planned out. Has to be incremental. And as the minister said today, this has to be very orderly. So we have a lot of options, and we have a lot of applications for experienced officers as well. We do not have an issue that way.